The neighbor who tormented me got a taste of their own medicine. Have you ever locked your front door at night and still felt unsafe? Not because of burglars, not because of strangers, but because the person living just a few feet away seemed determined to make your life miserable. If you've never experienced that kind of fear, I hope you never do. Because once your home stops feeling safe, everything else in your life starts to fall apart. This isn't just a story about a bad neighbor. This is a story about slow, calculated harassment, about silence being used as a weapon, and about how my dream home slowly turned into a psychological prison. And this is how it all began. When we bought our house, it felt like the biggest achievement of my life. A quiet, suburban neighborhood in the U.S., the kind you see in movies, clean streets, friendly waves, kids riding bikes until sunset, a place where families built memories. I remember unloading boxes and thinking, this is it. We finally made it. My wife was smiling, my kids were laughing, everything felt right. What I didn't know was that the real danger in this neighborhood wasn't hidden in the dark. It was living right next door. The first time I met my neighbor, nothing obvious went wrong. He came over, introduced himself, shook my hand, and welcomed us. On the surface, he seemed normal. But there was something about him that made my stomach tighten. His smile felt forced. His eyes didn't match his words. While we talked, he kept looking past me, at my driveway, my fence, my car, like he was already studying what belonged to me. I ignored the feeling. I told myself I was being paranoid. That decision would cost me months of peace. The problem started small, almost harmless, the kind of things most people would brush off. My trash cans tipped over, my mailbox nudged slightly out of place. His truck parked halfway into my driveway for hours at a time. When I asked politely, he apologized, but it kept happening. Then came the noise. Late-night music, heavy bass, always stopping just before quiet hours ended. Every single time. It felt intentional, like a game. Still, I chose patience. I believed that if I stayed calm and respectful, things would eventually settle down. Instead, they escalated. One morning, I walked outside and froze. Long, deep scratches ran across the side of my car. Perfectly straight, perfectly deliberate. This wasn't an accident. My heart started pounding. I knocked on his door. He opened it slowly, smiling like nothing was wrong. He denied everything. No anger, no surprise, just calm amusement. A few days later, my garden was destroyed. Plants ripped out by the roots, soil scattered everywhere. It looked violent. It felt personal. That's when the anxiety really set in. Then the nights became unbearable. Almost every night, the music returned. Louder, longer, sometimes past 2 a.m. My kids woke up crying, my wife barely slept. We were constantly exhausted, constantly tense. Our home no longer felt peaceful. It felt hostile. I tried talking to him again, hoping reason might work. This time, he leaned closer, lowered his voice, and whispered something I will never forget. Good luck proving it. Those 3 words changed everything, because in that moment, I realized something terrifying. He knew exactly what he was doing. He knew the rules, and he knew how to break them without getting caught. I called the police. They came, they listened, they looked around, and then they left. No evidence, no witnesses, nothing they could act on. That's when fear turned into something deeper. Powerlessness. I started noticing patterns. Him standing outside whenever I left, watching silently, smiling. My kids stopped playing outside. My wife checked the locks multiple times a night. Every sound outside made my heart race. Home stopped feeling like a safe place. It felt like a trap. And the person controlling it lived just steps away. The breaking point came on a cold Sunday night. I woke up to a sharp, cracking sound, wood snapping. I looked out the window, and my blood ran cold. He was on my property, destroying my fence. Not hiding, not rushing. When he noticed me watching, he didn't stop. He looked straight at me and smirked. That was the moment everything changed. Not because I was angry, not because I was scared, but because I finally understood. This wasn't random. This wasn't a coincidence. This was intentional harassment. I went back inside, sat in the dark, and listened to my family sleep. And I made a decision. If he believed he was untouchable, if he thought no one could stop him, he was wrong. Because from that night forward, I stopped reacting and I started preparing. This was no longer about comfort. It was about survival. And this was only the beginning.
After that night, nothing felt the same. I still woke up at the same time, still went to work, still smiled at my kids and told them everything was okay. But inside, something had shifted. The fear was still there, but now it had direction. I realized that reacting emotionally was exactly what he wanted. Every argument, every complaint, every angry look only fed his sense of control. So I stopped giving him that satisfaction. I stopped confronting him. I stopped knocking on his door. I stopped showing any reaction at all. And that silence confused him, because bullies don't know how to function when their target stops responding. Instead of fighting back loudly, I started fighting back quietly. I began by educating myself. I spent nights reading local ordinances, HOA rules, noise regulations, and property laws. I learned what counted as harassment, what qualified as trespassing, what could actually hold up in court. For the first time, I wasn't powerless. I was informed. The next step was preparation. I installed security cameras, legally, carefully, positioned only on my property. No shortcuts, no gray areas. Everything by the book. I downloaded certified noise level apps. I bought a simple notebook and turned it into a log. Every incident had a date, a time, a description. No emotions, just facts. He didn't notice any of this at first. In fact, his behavior escalated. The noise got worse, louder music, longer nights, more aggressive bass shaking the walls. Then came the intimidation. He'd rev his engine late at night, slam doors, stand outside staring at my house for long stretches of time. Still, I said nothing, and that silence started to bother him. One afternoon, he shouted insults from his yard, clearly trying to provoke a reaction. I stayed inside. That was the moment I realized something important. He needed my reaction more than I needed his approval. The real turning point came weeks later. It was past midnight when the cameras caught him stepping onto my property again. This time, there was no ambiguity, no shadows, no excuses. He damaged my fence deliberately, looking around to see if anyone was watching. What he didn't know was that everything was being recorded. Clear video, clear audio, clear intent. I watched the footage the next morning, and for the first time in months, I felt calm. Because fear disappears the moment you gain control. I didn't confront him. I didn't post anything online. I didn't celebrate. I organized. I backed up the footage. I labeled files. I matched them with my logs. Then I made an appointment with a lawyer. He watched everything in silence. When the video ended, he leaned back and said something that surprised me. "This is textbook harassment." He explained what would happen next. Formal complaints, legal notices, escalation through the proper channels. No drama, no shouting, just pressure. The first notice went out quietly, and that's when my neighbor panicked. His confidence cracked. The loud music stopped overnight. Then came the fake friendliness. Casual waves, forced smiles, awkward apologies that didn't sound sincere. When that didn't work, he tried intimidation again. But this time, it failed, because every move he made only added to the file. The neighborhood association got involved, then city authorities. Fines followed, warnings escalated. The man who once smirked at me now avoided eye contact. He walked differently, spoke less, moved like someone constantly looking over his shoulder. Justice doesn't arrive loudly. It arrives slowly, and it keeps records. Weeks passed, then months. The harassment stopped completely. The noise, the damage, the intimidation, all gone. But something else remained. A silence heavier than any noise he ever made. I'd see him outside sometimes, staring at the ground, pretending I didn't exist. The power had shifted. Not because I fought him, but because I outlasted him. If you're still watching right now, I want you to ask yourself something. How many people stay trapped in situations like this because they think they have no options, because they think the only choices are to fight or to flee? There's a third option: strategy, documentation, patience. And in the final part of this story, I'll tell you exactly how everything ended and what I learned from it. Because the real victory wasn't watching him lose, it was taking my life back. By the time everything finally ended, I understood something I hadn't realized before. This was never just a fight with a neighbor. It was a long psychological battle, a test of patience, a test of self-control, and honestly, a test of how much a person can endure before breaking. For weeks after the harassment stopped, I didn't feel relief. I didn't celebrate. I didn't feel victorious. When someone terrorizes you for months, your mind doesn't instantly return to normal the moment the noise stops. Fear rewires you. Even silence feels suspicious at first. Every sound made me pause. Every shadow outside still pulled my attention. My body was calm, but my mind was still on guard. Peace doesn't arrive suddenly, it slowly creeps back in. What truly marked the beginning of the end was the letter, a thick envelope, official, stamped, the kind that instantly raises your heart rate before you even open it. It confirmed what I had been waiting for. My neighbor had officially been found in violation. Not once, not twice, but multiple documented times. Noise ordinance violations, property damage, trespassing, harassment. The pattern was undeniable. Fines were issued, formal warnings were delivered, and the message was clear. If this behavior continued, court action would follow. That single letter changed everything. For the first time since moving into that house, the power imbalance disappeared. The law wasn't ignoring us anymore. It was watching him, and he knew it. Almost immediately, his behavior changed. The loud music stopped completely. No more late-night bass. No more intimidation. No more standing outside trying to provoke fear. He avoided stepping out when we were home, and when our paths crossed, he looked away. The man who once smirked, whispered threats, and acted untouchable now moved cautiously, like someone afraid of being seen, like someone afraid of making a mistake. That's when I realized something important. This wasn't revenge. This was accountability. Weeks passed, then one evening I noticed something unusual. Boxes, quiet movement, no music, no noise, just him loading his car late in the afternoon. No confrontation, no announcement. A few days later, the house next door was empty. He was gone. I wish I could tell you I felt satisfaction. I didn't. What I felt was closure, because the real damage he caused was never physical. It wasn't the fence, it wasn't the scratches on my car, it wasn't even the sleepless nights. It was the constant fear, the stress, the feeling that your own home had become hostile territory. That kind of damage takes time to heal. Slowly, life returned to normal. My kids started playing outside again. My wife slept through the night without waking up anxious. I stopped checking the cameras obsessively. The house felt lighter. The silence felt peaceful instead of threatening. That's when the lesson became clear. Bullies thrive on reaction. They feed on emotion. They depend on intimidation and chaos. But they fall apart when faced with patience, documentation, and consequences. Silence isn't always weakness. Sometimes silence is preparation. If you're watching this right now and dealing with a nightmare neighbor, hear this clearly. You are not powerless. You don't need to explode. You don't need to fight physically. You don't need to flee your own home. You need strategy. You need evidence. You need time. Because the law doesn't move fast, but when it moves permanently. I didn't win because I was stronger. I won because I stayed calm longer than he stayed careless. And that's something bullies never expect. Today, when I stand in my driveway, I feel something I once thought I'd lost forever: safety. Not because someone saved me, but because I learned how to protect myself the right way. This experience changed how I see conflict. It taught me that real power is quiet, calculated, patient. And if you take anything away from the story, let it be this: never underestimate someone who refuses to react emotionally. Because while bullies are busy provoking, smart people are documenting. And eventually, the truth always speaks louder than intimidation. If this story resonated with you, don't just move on. Engage. Hit the like button so this message reaches people who need it. Subscribe if you believe real stories deserve to be heard. And comment below. Tell me if you've ever dealt with a neighbor like this or what you would have done in my place. Your comments help others realize they're not alone. Thank you for staying till the end. Your time matters. And remember this, sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's justice.